Hey, does this work? Does this work for everybody? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow, it's great to be here. It was quite a drive and quite an excursion getting here, but I'm so happy to be with you all. Could we just stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance quick? I have a little great start to things off that way. Flag's right over there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wow, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate you hanging around. And thank you, Tim, for setting this entire thing up. I mean, I have so much thanks to you. Thank you for waiting. Thank you so much for waiting. I'll tell you what, this is exactly what's been going on in this campaign, just individuals taking the initiative, because like me, many of you just want to see this state change once and for all. You want the reform that you were promised, 3 years ago under Governor Rauner, and you failed to deliver. You actually want something done to fix your property tax issues, to fix the over-regulation, to bring back jobs, get good education down there. You actually want something done. I know it. And you've been so disappointed so many times, and so have I. So, I mean, this is, it took a bunch of prayers and a lot of work, quite frankly, to even get us on the ballot. So, let me start a little bit in a different manner, though. I am Jeanne Ives. I'm a 3-term state rep out of the Wheaton area. I'm sure you've read my bio. My husband Paul and I, we've been married 30 years. We met at West Point, and I graduated with an econ degree. He had an electrical engineering degree. And we've been, living in Wheaton, Illinois, for 26 years, where we've raised our 5 kids. Our oldest son, Matt, is our oldest son, it's hot in there. Maybe I could stand somewhere else. Should I stand somewhere else? Does this work better? Does it stop popping here? Does it pop here? No, you're good. I'm good here? Okay, good here. So our oldest son, Matt's an Army Ranger. He's up in Alaska. Nick is going to be a Navy pilot. He's down in training in Corpus Christi. I figured out. Yeah, if you guys move closer, I can definitely talk.
That's better.
Does this work? Yes.
No. You don't need it.
No, I don't need it. You don't need it. All right.
Come to the middle.
Yeah, I'm going to come to the middle. This is great. Anyway, I figured out how long Illinois was when I had to take my son to Ole Miss. And then, so from Wheaton, you're in, it's 9 hours and 15 minutes to Ole Miss, where he goes to school, and 6.5 hours of that's in Illinois, which is just unreal, right? From Wheaton. And so, and then we have a 4th son, Joe. He's a 3-sport athlete. He goes to Wheaton Warrenville South, and they just made it through the first round of playoffs for basketball, so I missed that game, and oh well, that's fine. And then we have an 8th grade daughter, Louisa. She goes to St. Michael's, and in April will be our last payment after 22 continuous years there. So we're kind of excited about that. But I'll tell you what, I just came from Springfield, where they did all the gun bills. All right, they voted on all the gun bills. And, this is them. This is how they do everything. They react to what's going on, and they don't do anything with any common sense at all. So I want everybody to know I have an A rating with the NRA. I plan on maintaining that A rating. And Governor Rauner failed to even respond to their questionnaire. Failed to respond in 2014, didn't respond in 2018. So just like all sorts of other things where he said he had no social agenda and then lied to us about it,
you can't trust him if you care about your Second Amendment rights either. We don't know what he's going to do. Now, I'm somebody who reveals everything to you about my voting history. So today, there was one bill I voted on. I voted for bump stock fire bans. I did vote for that because the NRA signaled early after the Las Vegas shooting that they are even open to that. And just a couple hours ago, Donald Trump said that he plans to put it in via executive order anyway. So I did vote for that, which I think, you know, we already have an automatic weapons ban. All the rest of it stuff, complete and utter garbage. Complete garbage. But meanwhile, they don't want to talk about the real things that are going on in kids' lives. They don't want to talk about fatherlessness. They don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about poor education. They don't want to talk about the failure of government to be accountable, which is exactly what happened in Parkland. And sure as hell is happening here in the state of Illinois. You know your government's unaccountable for the dollars that they spend and the regulations they put on you. They don't even follow up on or adhere to themselves. So it's time for full-scale revolt in Illinois. And I think that, you know, you sit down here in Toledo, right? I'm in Wheaton, but I'll tell you what, it's the same sentiment in Cook County. And that's why I really, truly believe that 2018 is a change election for Illinois. We missed it in 2010 with the Tea Party movement, right? We missed it last year when Trump got elected in Illinois to really just move the state forward and take out Madigan. But in 2018, it is a change election year. Everybody is fed up. Everybody from the get-go. So we have a lot of work to do, but it's going to take the right person to lead that effort. So, you know, I went down there to defend taxpayers. That's really why I went down there. And the first year that I was there, of course, I was faced with all sorts of things like Obamacare expansion, concealed carry legislation, which I do have my concealed carry license, by the way. Every single person in my household, including our daughter, has their FOID card, and she got it at age 7. So, you know, my husband's a big hunter, so I'd like to just let you know that. But, you know, we voted on that, Obamacare expansion, medical marijuana, fake pension reform, same-sex marriage, you name it. Nothing dealing with the problems that I felt are most intimate, and that's our tax burden and really government accountability. So it's been a fight ever since. It's been a fight ever since. So, like, you know, I sat there under Quinn and Madigan, and, you know, super minority status, Quinn as the governor. And I thought, well, it's obviously because we don't have a backstop in the governor's house to make sure this legislation gets, you know, vetoed when it comes up. So like you, I helped elect Governor Rauner in 2014. He was supposed to be the backstop against all the nonsense that gets through the legislature. That's what we elected him to do. We didn't really think that we'd get out of supermajority status, but we figured he'd at least stop some of the bad legislation. It became very obvious very quickly to me, though, when I sat in an education committee and he wanted to double down on you know, grabbing some government federal money and expanding massively 4-year-old preschool when we couldn't afford it. It became very obvious to me that he was just a big government guy, just a big government guy. And then it got worse. So we bailed out Exelon with ratepayer dollars, even though they were a $2.2 billion net income company. He bailed them out even though we export 25% of our energy. He still bailed them out. So we're subsidizing ratepayers in other states, all right? Then he bailed out Chicago Public Schools on the backs of with our state money. And then the real betrayals began, right? Sanctuary state, maybe it's a sanctuary state, required pro-life pregnancy centers to refer for abortion, required taxpayers to fund abortion. I mean, it's been just horrific under this guy. The man who had no social agenda really only had his wife's social agenda in mind when he ran for office, apparently. Make no mistake about it. When it comes to taxpayer funding abortion, the final meeting that he had with the Republican leaders prior to signing that bill, he did not start the meeting until his wife was brought in to hold him accountable. So who's really the governor? Who's really being honest? Well, the only Rauner that was honest in this regard was Diana. Oh, Rauner. The only Rauner that's been honest is Diana. So it's you know, after taxpayer funding abortion, my colleagues called me and said, Jeannie, we need somebody to run for this office. And we looked at the race and we knew we didn't have the money yet, but we knew that he had to be challenged. Because if you're a Republican like me, and I'm probably in the mixed crowd here, and that's fine with me. If you're a Republican like me though, what the primary is about is holding people accountable for their actions and their votes. So this guy cannot get a pass. And new polling has just come out that he's unelectable in November of 2018. There is no other alternative. So you have literally a slew of Democrats, all of them that want progressive income tax, a slew of them that raise their right hand, they raise their hand when asked, are you willing to give up federal grant, public safety grant money to maintain sanctuary state status? Every Democrat candidate raised their hand. Well, Rauner is in that group too, because he's the one who made this a sanctuary state. Those are your choices in November. And I honestly think the hardworking people of Illinois, no matter what their political stripe, are done with business as usual. That's where our opportunity is. So we worked forward, and I had to find a good lieutenant governor pick. So I picked a guy named Rich Morthland. He's a farmer from Rock Island County, okay, which is up off of next to Iowa border out west. And he's a community college professor as well. So Rich and I got started, and in the span of 4 weeks, 16,000 signatures came in to get us on the ballot. So we're just pumped up and fired up, and we still have no money. And then money started to come in, which was really a blessing. Really a blessing, because if you don't have money, you can't get your message out. So I know you've seen about half a dozen mailers saying that I'm Mike Madigan's best friend. And you've seen the commercials too, saying that I'm Mike Madigan's best friend. Nothing can be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. I've opposed that man at every turn. I have written opinion pieces that have been published in the Chicago Tribune calling this guy out for the games that he's been playing with people's lives. My colleagues know it. They wrote a letter, an open letter saying, Rauner, you're lying. You should take your slanderous commercials down. You are lying about our colleague. I have a 100% rating with tax accountability. I'm the first legislator in 34 years to get a 100% rating saying that I side with taxpayers on every vote. And Rauner's lying about my record. But you see, when you can't run to your record, then you lie about other people's records. The first lie he said is that he had no social agenda. Then he lied to every Republican down there saying he'd veto HB 40, taxpayer funding of abortion. Then he lied to a Cardinal Supich. Who lies to a priest? Who lies to a priest? Then he lied to victims' families on sanctuary state. He told both Eric Brady and Brian McCann, whose loved ones were killed by criminal illegal immigrants, that he would meet with them and have a private meeting with them prior to signing SB 31, the Trust Act, and he never did. And now he's lying to veterans' families from Quincy, where 13 people have died while he's been governor, 11 families have sued the state of Illinois, and after his PR stunt spending some days there, 4 more people have been found with Legionella. This man has not been honest with anybody, and now he's lying about my record. So we have information that refutes all of his stuff, but I don't know if you guys want to ask me about it, that's fine, but the property tax freeze votes, all that stuff is all a complete, utter lie. The truth is, like the Chicago Tribune said, Ives crushes Rauner in debate. It's exactly what happened. That's why the guy's such a coward, he won't debate me. But I know you guys want to hear about what I want to do. Look, I want to transform the state economically. And I've got the best policy people advising me in the state, because I've been working with these guys for 5 years now, developing great policy. And so we're going after 3 things. 1 is our tax burden, 2 is jobs, and 3 is public corruption. And they're actually all intertwined. They're all intertwined because the biggest tax you pay in Illinois is the corruption tax. But we're going to go after reforming spending. We're going after pension reform. All new hires should get a 401k style program. It's great for them because they need the flexibility. It's great for taxpayers, and it signals to the rest of the folks watching, the bond market, the business folks that are thinking about whether or not they should invest in Illinois anymore. It signals to them that we're gonna finally stop digging that pension hole. It's a really good first step that I know we can get across. When it comes to taxes, we gotta take on the property tax burden. I want an Indiana-style cap. I don't want to freeze property taxes at the highest level. I want an Indiana-style cap, where you cap it as a percentage of your EAV, so that you can finally have your home equity back and stop renting from your superintendent. So we've got a lot of things we have to put in place to make that happen, but unless somebody has the right target that they're aiming at, then you're never going to get anywhere in this state. And unless somebody has the courage to stand up to these people and lead the revolt, it's also not going to happen. So we'll be back to Toledo. Trust me. We'll be back to the south side of Chicago like we've been already. We'll be back to Vienna and Red Bud, and we'll venture down to Marion again and everywhere in between, to make sure that people, we connect dots for people and make sure that they understand what we're about. So it's all about having the courage to lead, quite frankly. And there's really, politicians are some of the most uncourageous people I've met in my life. But you can make them courageous by building the coalitions of support to get something done. They understand two things: money and votes. And we're going to get them to understand that their voters want the change. So I'm going to open it up to questions, because you guys probably have a lot of questions about the specific things that you want to talk about. I'm happy to talk about all that. Tim, I just can't thank you enough for having me here and for you guys to wait around. I mean, last night we were down in, we were in Edgar County. That was a 2 hours, 15-minute drive there and back, and then 2 hours, 15 back. Tomorrow we're in Coles County. After that, we're in, Friday I'm in Galesburg. My brother lives in Galesburg. Saturday we're going to Randolph, Perry, and Washington counties. Sunday we're in Effingham. Monday we're in Chicago, because a bunch of Democrats and a bunch of pro-life Democrats are hosting the Irish for Ives at an iconic bar in Oak Lawn called That's going to be kind of fun. I guess, just one more thing I want to say, and then we will open up to questions. So I grew up in South Dakota. Yeah, I grew up in South Dakota, yeah. And my mother works for the state tourism department. She runs a little tourist center right off of 29 as you go north into 29 right there. She runs that one. So I grew up in Vermillion, South Dakota.
Vermillion,
yeah, Vermillion, okay.
Rapid City here.
Oh, you are? Okay, good. All right, great. Sturgis guy, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but my three uncles were farmers, so we grew up, walking beans in the morning and going to the swimming pool in the afternoon, and I'm one of 6 kids. But Vermillion's a nice small town. At that time when I was growing up, population 5,000, so small town, right? I know what that's like. I've been all around it. But it did have the University of South Dakota, a really good mid-sized school. So I'm one of 6 kids. My mother's the oldest of 11, long-time dairy farmer, family and all that. So my father's one of 11. So anyway, but 4 of the 6 of us kids moved to Illinois in the early 90s for job opportunities, all in different areas. And my sister Sarah, who stayed in Vermillion, called me about 3 months ago and said, "Hey, Jeannie, there's a couple from DuPage County." DuPage County is the county I live in. It's the county where Wheaton is right now. She said there's a couple coming out from DuPage County want to look at property, because my sister sells real estate. So they drove 8.5 hours from DuPage County to Vermillion, South Dakota. Now we do it in 8 hours, but we for us it's 80 on 80. But anyway, so they looked at 7 homes and bought one that same day. And Sarah says to them, "Well, what brings you to Vermillion, South Dakota? You got a job here, you got family, what's up?" They said, "No, we've never been here before, but we cannot afford our property taxes, and we need an affordable place for our kids to go to school." So they are now South Dakota residents. No state income tax, half the property taxes. And with that, they can send their kids to the U, and they can afford their own to pay for their retirement. That is the story of Illinois. If you think any of this gets better, if we continue to lose population, you are wrong. We need massive reform. None of this gets worked out unless we bring back our job creation, and our job creators want to stay here. None of this gets solved without that growth. We have a lot of work to do. And we're going to hold people accountable for their votes. And we're going to go right into every single Democrat district and tell their voters Do you know your legislator has a failing grade in terms of their business votes? A failing grade, because that's the record. Every single sitting Democrat that's been down there longer than 2 years has a failing grade when business rates their votes. Well, why do you think we have some of the worst job creation in the United States? Why do you think we have some of the lowest income growth? Why do you think businesses are fleeing? It's because they don't feel loved here at all. They don't feel wanted or welcome, and they can't make it work for their bottom line. So we got to change that entire trajectory. Anyway, back to the story. I know you probably think you know it. You know differently though, right? Tell me. South Dakota's got paved roads, right? We have police departments and fire departments, and we have public schools, right? Yeah, because I graduated. Yeah. So my point is that you know what? Yeah, there's something wrong in Illinois.
That's a great state. I mean, it's just like Texans are proud.
Yeah, no, look, but you know what? I'm a proud Illinoisan now, quite frankly. I like where I live in Wheaton. I like Illinois. Illinois has really far more diversity than South Dakota. You have look, my uncles would kill for this rich dirt here for farming.
Yeah.
They would kill for it.
Absolutely.
From a texture standpoint, you can't get more beautiful than Galena or even down in southern Illinois. I mean, you can't. And the river systems we have here, sure, we have the Missouri that cuts through South Dakota, but we don't have all the other rivers here. I was just along the Rock River because I was in Rockford the other day. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful hills and valleys. It's amazing. So, and what else South Dakota? They don't have 3 Class 1 railroads. They don't have 5 major interstates just in the northeast section. They don't have O'Hare. They don't have Chicago, which I know we complain about Chicago, but let's face it. You're close to Chicago. You're also close to St. Louis. You got options here. Even from here, you're close to Indianapolis, right? They don't have a major team to even call a major team in South Dakota. So we have many options. Yeah, but you know what? If you look, my dad's favorite bumper sticker, I'm for Iowa and whoever's playing Nebraska. All right, so there you go. But so my point is that we have so much potential and we've wasted it. We've let the politicians waste our potential. We have let them waste our potential. So now you got a choice. So what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it, right? That's the question.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, please. I'm ready.
Love you, Susie.
Do you know Mitch Daniels personally?
I do not.
He's the governor in Indiana, and I lived there at the time that he got elected. He is the governor in Indiana that saved that state. Gotta give credit where credit's due. Another question I would like to ask you.
He's now the head of Purdue, and he's transforming his higher education
Mitch
too.
Daniels is a
which
very,
we should
very,
do.
very intelligent man.
Yes, he is. I know.
Yes, he is.
He's doing great work.
Another question I would like to ask you, is your love in Chicago, or do you really honestly care about us people downstate?
Well, first of all, I'm not from Chicago.
I
I'm not from
understand
Chicago.
that, but you're from Wheaton, which is very close.
Wheaton is a suburb of Chicago, but we don't consider ourselves from Chicago. We live in Wheaton. We're just
We've
as
had
much
too
like
many
we're not from Chicago.
politicians, I'm sorry.
I know you have. But I'll tell you what, that's why we picked Rich Morthland. My lieutenant governor is a farmer for a reason, because I recognize we're an agricultural state. I understand that wholeheartedly. And he is there to make sure that we don't forget it. And not that I'm going to forget it, but he's there as an extra check. Listen, I understand places like the South and Central Illinois.
We get forgotten about.
I know you have. I know. You're forgotten by the political ruling class that resides in Chicago largely and does their dirty deeds in Springfield. And so what you have to do is you have to find people like Sue Sherritt, the Democrats that has part of Decatur. And you got to hold her accountable. And you guys together as a region got to just go all in against these folks that are voting like they're from Chicago, but they live here.
But
That's the problem.
What can you do to convince this room full of people right now that you really honestly have our best interest at heart? And also, before you answer that question, may I give you one piece of advice in my mind only? I don't know how anybody else feels, but, and no offense against you, but you started your speech out dissing Bruce Rauner, and I don't think that anybody should disrespect Bruce Rauner because that man has tried and never ever been able to get the Senate to work with him. So what are you going to do that's going to be different to get the Senate to work with you?
When's the last time Bruce Rauner's been to Cumberland County, Susie? When's the last time you seen the Bruce Rauner sign in Cumberland
I'm
County?
not saying in Cumberland County, I'm saying.
Hey, all questions are fair. Look, all questions are
So what are you
fair.
going to do to get the Senate to vote
Yep.
with you?
Yep. Well, here's the deal.
That's my question. I'm sorry, I went the wrong way around.
Well,
I did say I love you too, by the way. I'm not picking a fight with you. I'll come and hug you right quick. Just
well,
for
as far as I know, you guys are probably kin. I don't know. Welcome to Illinois. No, look, I mean, fair question. I get that all the time. What are you gonna do if Mike Madigan's still there? Well, look, we're gonna work with Mike Madigan or we're gonna work around Mike Madigan. And that's all you can expect from anybody. That's all you can expect. But it does not help to be calling Mike Madigan names and making it a personal feud. That gets you nowhere with that guy. Because if here's what's predictable. The last 3 years of what Rauner has put together is an indication of what will happen in the next 4 years. But, well, first of all, that's like hypothetical because he's not going to get elected in November because universally people don't like him, they don't trust him. He is unelectable in November. But if he were, and if Madigan were still the sitting speaker, I guarantee you that Madigan would go in for the kill. Like, he would not let him get anything done at all. And he would put him on the
The
dime.
last 3 years.
Right, so here's the deal.
So
That's what I'm talking about.
We should blame
Yeah.
Bruce Rauner for that.
Well, no. But Bruce Rauner has failed a number of other ways. He could have gotten a better deal on Exelon. If you want me to do a deep dive on that energy bill, I'm happy to do it. But the truth is, he could have done a lot better deal on that Exelon. He got backed into a corner because he didn't lead on policy. That education bill, backed into a corner because he didn't lead on policy. I handed him an entire format to fix the taxpayer assessment system, the property assessment system in this system, that is fundamental to a fair education bill. Fundamental. I gave it to him 3 years ago. He did nothing with it. Then I gave it to him the second 2 years ago. He still did nothing with it. I finally filed the bill myself last year. And when the Democrats buried it, I said to him, run this as an executive order. You can put Madigan on the dime. He's complicit here. He failed to do it. What happened? The Democrats stole my bill. They stole exactly my bill because they know it's a good bill, and they were complicit in the malfeasance happening in Cook County with property assessments, and they had to do something. So when you expose things to the light of day, when you put people on the dime about their votes, when you shine a light about what's going on, you can get change. It's the only way to get change. It's the only way to do it, is to connect dots for voters so they hold the representative accountable. And there is a splintering going on in Madigan's caucus, especially across with this sexual harassment hashtag #MeToo movement. I've called for him to resign. Drury called for him to resign, a Democrat rep. Others have called him to step down as the Democrat Party chairman. There's a splintering going on in his caucus. And on top of that, they are upset about the state of the state as well. I've heard things from Democrats that I've never heard before in terms of wanting more accountability, from higher education spending to what's going on with infrastructure. And Madigan is getting vulnerable. He is. So 85% of Illinoisans say we're on the wrong track. We're hoping to pick up the 9 seats to get rid of Madigan. John Cullerton, you can do a deal with.
May I ask you one more question?
Sure.
Where do you stand on unions? Because I do belong to a union.
She's
Well-
finished her
Okay, that's great.
4-year pay freeze.
Yeah, you guys actually did a good deal with Rauner on that. You did a good deal on that. Look, I don't hide my voting record. I filed
I'm kicking at you.
right to work when I showed up in 2013. And the bill went nowhere. Okay, fine. 1,100 companies had blacklisted the state of Illinois for coming here because we're not right to work. We lost a 4,000-person Toyota plant because we're not right to work. All right? So that's fine. If we don't want to be right to work, if that's what, look, if they send me, the legislature sends me a bill on right to work, I'll file it, I'll sign it. Is it one of my top initiatives? No. Absolutely not one of my top initiatives. Is not. But guess what I need the unions to do? Guess what I need the unions to do? I need the unions to help me on work comp reform. I need the unions to help me on prevailing wage reform. Has to come down. You cannot have a laborer in DuPage County having a compensation package of $120,000 and think you can still build the same amount of roads. All right? I need your support on those things. I need your support on tort reform. How about this? How about unless, in all these metrics that we are gauged in economics, how about from being the worst, one of the top 5 worst or the top 7 worst in the country? How about we're just middle of the road? How about you help me get to middle of the road? Okay, because my husband works with unions day in and day out. He builds large utility construction projects around the country. Around the country. And guess what? It's hard to work in the state of Illinois, even when you have a unionized workforce and you work with them in other states, because of all these other things I'm talking about. So if you come to the table and you help us get to maybe, how about 20 or 25 would be better. I don't think that's too much to ask. Or, here's your choice. You can continue the slow going out of business sale that is the state of Illinois. Did that 32% tax increase help anybody? Anybody. How about the fact that that tax increase moved corporate taxes back to number 4 in the nation? Highest. Does that help anybody in this room? No, it helps nobody. We don't get out of this in case we increase the tax base. And I had really important conversations on this with a guy named Art Laffer. Art Laffer is this uber smart economics guy. He came up with the Laffer curve, saying the more you tax, the less you get. That's what he's famous for. Well, he moved from California to Tennessee. I called him up. He used to talk around it. Now he's talking to me about policy stuff. In Tennessee, no state income tax, one of the lowest property taxes. It's like, I think it's a 10 or lower property taxes. They have 100 people moving to Nashville every day. They have a $2 billion surplus. That's what we need, because then everybody succeeds. Everybody succeeds. Work comp alone. When Office Depot and Office Max merged, Office Depot was, I'm trying to remember. Office Max was in the Naperville area headquartered. Office Depot was down in Florida. And they were looking at which one are they going to headquarter in. Work comp alone, $2 million savings if they located in Florida. Well, where do you think they located? Florida, of course. So I mean, we're either going to really transform Illinois. It's our time, because we've missed out on all this economic growth. And I was just reading the statistics today. Look, our job growth has been 0.8%. The surrounding states have been 2.4%, so 3 times more than us. And the nation has been 3%.
Well, I'm sorry.
You can only defy economics so long. You can only defy economics.
I didn't mean you and asked you some very tough questions, but you know what? I'm impressed with your answers.
Yes, sir.
Should we be talking about bankruptcy for the state of Illinois? Should we be considering secession for downstate from Chicago? Should we consider the possibility that each county should collect their own taxes and make sure that our people are taken care of, our schools, our firm, our elderly, our infrastructure? Should we be taking care of ourselves? And then after that's done, then we send in what's left. Instead of the current system, where we send it in and then pay for it back, what are you going to do about that?
Okay, good questions, all good questions. The truth is, your area needs the state resources more than my area. And my area is giving up a lot of money. So You know, the tax increase is going to take another $581 million out of DuPage County alone. All right? Sending it to the state, we're not getting it back. Because the way this works is, you know, you send your money down on an income tax basis, you get back some of it through local distributive fund, motor fuel sales tax, and things like that on a per capita basis. So the one thing that honestly that all of us are united against, including the suburbs, is Chicago, who has been gaming the system forever, which is why that education bill was so bad. So they're sitting there on assessments that are way undervalued. So the Sears Tower sells for over $1 billion. It's on the books for $535 million. Of the top 12 sales in 2015 in Chicago, the top 12 sales, on average, undervalued 42%. They're scamming the system. It's part of Madigan's little cabal where he gets some lower property taxes, raises them the next year. They have to hire him again to get them lower. It's a continuous cycle, all right? So I brought that to Rounder and said, you fix the assessment system before you touch the funding formula because we're getting screwed. You're getting screwed, Wheaton's getting screwed, Chicago's getting a benefit. They have 50 cranes in Chicago, and Rahm Emanuel wants to brag about how much development's going on downtown. Yeah, it's all subsidized by us because we're heavily subsidizing their school and their infrastructure and you name it. Now, there's no succeeding from Chicago. I understand the desire, trust me, just not going to happen. The truth is though, if you change this assessment system, you change a lot in terms of education funding, which is one of the top things. But we got a lot of work to do in terms of education quality.
We don't have any leverage over it. There's no way we're going to operate a Democrat. We have no leverage. We're not talking about bankruptcy. We're not talking about secession.
Okay, back to bankruptcy. Yeah.
Independence or some kind of autonomy. You cannot do anything different than anybody else is.
Okay, so bankruptcy. I filed a bankruptcy bill because I'm the only one who actually knows that that's what has to happen. There are states that are failing. They're very close to bankruptcy. I get it. So I filed a bankruptcy bill because I recognize that. When I talked to my top policy guys, we need two things. We need to have the ability for locals to have bankruptcy. We need to have economic growth, all right? And we need to cut government spending. We know that. We have to have all three at the same time. But in terms of like, your schools, I didn't look them up, but I'm happy to get you back that information. But I will tell you, my district, my school district, maybe 9% of our funding comes from the state. 9%, that's it. We get almost nothing from the state. There's other school districts that get nearly nothing from the state, from education. And that education bill that probably your state rep voted for, because a lot of them did. Who's the state rep here?
Reggie Phillips.
Oh, I don't remember if Reggie did.
By God, you better study, he donated to you.
Yeah, no, I don't remember because there's so many votes. But I'll tell you what, that was a bad bill. It was a bad bill because everybody's just bailing out Chicago because we never fix the underlying problem.
We're going to have a majority Republicans. We're not going to fire
Oh yeah, you can. You can.
It can happen.
Well, for sure you can if Rounder's at the top of the ticket because people are staying home. But you can do this. Absolutely, you can.
You're not going to vote in enough Republicans.
Well, 85% of Illinoisans say we're on the wrong track. We have to pick up 9 seats. 9 seats. That's it. I mean, that's the task at hand. That's a task at hand. And then you can start to change things. South Suburban Cook is in even worse shape than Toledo. Even worse shape. They have confiscatory property taxes. We're talking 15, 25%, 40% effective tax rates on these homes. Lake County as a county has the highest tax rates in the state for property. Lake County, followed by McHenry and DuPage. Highest tax rates in the state. They all want the revolution too, trust me. We can get this done. It's just, it's gut-wrenching hard work to connect dots for people. That's what we have to do. We have to wake people up. But Chicago is technically bankrupt. Technically bankrupt. And Rauner made it worse. I'm telling you right now, signing that education bill was a complete bailout for his wine-sipping buddy, Rahm. Complete bailout. You're going to be, they have $17 billion in debts. CPS, Chicago Public Schools, $17 billion in debt. And that cost is going to be socialized to the state taxpayers through that education bill. It made Chicago, with 50 cranes it made Chicago look like they're one of the poorest in terms of property wealth, one of the poorest in the state. That's obscene. They should be a tier 3 or 4 school, one of the wealthiest, getting very little state support.
So you're saying that if you and non-Republicans get voted in, you can change how they assess their properties and raise their property taxes and keep ours where it is or lower?
First of all, sir, we think we can do that even if we don't get 9 Republicans in, because there's a huge election going on in Cook County with Barrios. They know that this has been a problem. There's a ACLU lawsuit over assessments in Cook County because the poor minority have been paying 10 to 25% more than they should, and the rich have been paying 10 to 25% less than they should. So the ACLU is suing over this as a civil rights lawsuit. They are ripe for reform. Barrios finally has a challenger. I've been all over Facebook about that, and I've been the lead legislator on the assessment problems statewide. So when the 4 superintendents sat in front of me in committee, and they wanted to push this education bill, because all they were promised was exactly what they got in the past. Every superintendent bought into that education debacle because they were promised that they're going to get everything that they got before, and probably in most cases a little bit more. All right? So 4 of them are sitting in front of me. I said, you can't fix anything if you don't fix the assessment problem. And one of the superintendents had the ability, he's a little bit honest with me. He's like, well, I would agree with you there, Representative Ives, because our county hasn't had a reassessment for 35 years. Well, I didn't just let that information sit there. I sent a letter to the Illinois Department of Revenue. I said, what the hell's going on? 35 years, no reassessment. And oh, by the way, tell me how many assessors are qualified or not. And oh, by the way, look into the Coles County assessment issue. I want to know about that one too.
Yes.
So I fire off this letter to the IDOR, and they come back after, trying to pretend they didn't know anything and tell me, yeah, you're right. Perry County hadn't been reassessed for 35 years. Here's the problem, though. Here's the bigger problem. And this is why your government, you got to watch them all the time. The superintendent was the superintendent for 25 years. And he said nothing. He said nothing. He should have been fired. You sat there, you knew that for 25 years they hadn't been, and I ask a question, you casually bring it up like it's no big deal. That's what's happening in Illinois. You're getting screwed over by your government officials left and right, and I have not even started to talk about higher education.
That's why the counties need more autonomy.
Yeah,
These guys screw each other. Right here, we can take care of ourselves.
actually, if you look at the numbers though, I'm telling you what, I understand where you're coming from, but there's a lot of wealth from the suburbs that floats down to the rest of the state, and we're not asking for that autonomy.
There's a lot of that too.
Oh, well, let me tell you this though.
Obligations too.
The pension obligations, I agree with you. That's why you do have to move pensions back to the local level, because my brother in Galesburg shouldn't pay for my higher priced teacher in Wheaton. I agree with you, and I put that bill together. All right, so I'm totally on board with that. My point is though, that all this should have come to light, but you needed Rauner to lead the charge on this. His school superintendent said nothing. In fact, in committee yesterday, Rauner's school superintendent asked for $7.4 billion more. He wants to double the amount of general state aid we had from last year, which was a record year for education spending. He wants to double it. And that we are broke. And this is the guy that he hired. The guy's a Democrat from California. What else do you expect?
That's right.
Part of running your agencies well is hiring the right people and paying attention. So if Madigan's still there, guess what? Look, I'm going to get done legislating what I can get done. But you know what you can do? Run the agencies well. Protect veterans from Legionella disease. Move them out. Don't let it sit there and fester. And then take on public corruption, which is an everyday event in Illinois. Unfortunately, it's an everyday event. How does the Northern Illinois University president get a $600,000 resignation bonus after a scathing OEIG investigative report that literally says he mismanaged NIU? How does that happen? when Rauner controls the majority of the board members and he appointed them as trustees? How does that happen? After the College of DuPage debacle, which I led on, he should have immediately fired off a note to the Illinois Board of Higher Ed saying, every one of your administrators needs an addendum to the contract, that they will be immediately fired with nothing if they violate our laws. Sir.
First, I'd like to thank you for immediately when you came in, the first thing you did was say the Pledge of Allegiance. That was very important. Now, I came here specifically to do research on you, to learn about you,
Okay.
not to hear about Bruce Rauner, not to hear about Mike Madigan or anybody else. I just want to find out your standpoints and what you specifically plan to do if you do get elected into the governor's office. So, carrying on with some of the things that you just mentioned, you mentioned specifically a superintendent should have been fired for failing to do his or her job. You brought up the problems that we've got with corruption. How far are you prepared to go to fight that? Are you prepared to publicly pursue recalls and suspend pay for those that fail to do their jobs, like we had basically the entire state full of legislators not passing the budget for so long? These people, they do need to get fired. They do need to get booted out of office. They can't wait until the next election term comes around. What are you prepared to do about it?
So unfortunately, that's been litigated back and forth. Quinn tried it, it got litigated. Rauner tried it, got litigated on legislator pay. That's been litigated. The courts have said that you have to pay them. And that's unfortunate. But where I can control it, I will make sure that things happen the way that they're supposed to, where I can control it. Like, I can't necessarily fire a superintendent. I'm telling you, he should have been fired. He should have been. And the way you do that is you shine a light of the day on it. Use the Edgar County watchdog model of exposing it.
Right,
To
and that's what I'm
detect it, you
asking.
expose it.
Are you
To
willing to
detect it,
do that?
expose it. Absolutely.
Okay.
I've already been doing that as a legislator. I've already been exposing the corruption going on. So, I think that's where we have to go. I mean, that's really what has to happen in the state. If you expose the gains stop. They actually do. The malfeasance stops. So, and I've talked to this extensively with all sorts of editorial boards and the media, and I've asked them to be partners in doing what we need to do, because we have to get everybody, and people, awareness, you have to raise awareness. So many people don't know about what's going on down there. Just tune into sessions sometimes, it's abysmal. But, are there any more questions?
Yeah, I'm concerned that a lot of people don't know who you are. I have a store and I try to help people, but I didn't know who you was until a little bit. So what I'm concerned about is I think you could get elected, but I think like I had you ladies come in last week, they said, oh, I wouldn't vote for her because she's a man. Yeah. So that's having an impact on people, and then other people that are conservative I've been talking to have no idea who you are.
No, we understand that. We understand that. That's why we did the provocative ad, to raise awareness. It also showed Rauner's who he aligned himself with in his policy choices. But listen, he spent about $4 million over the last 10 days, bashing me and lying about my record. That's what he's done. So we get it. It's penetrating people. But you know what? We've not even raised $4 million yet. But we have the grassroots on our side. We have the truth on our side. And we have been on radio, and we've been on TV. We're still on radio. We're still on TV. And you should have all received the booklet that is basically, the governor you don't know. Because two things need to happen here if you're a Republican voter. You have to understand that Governor Rauner should not win an election. He doesn't stand for our party. He doesn't. He violated the Henry Hyde Amendment. He's betrayed us on sanctuary state. People are less safe. So part of it is about him and his record, because we cannot have 4 more years of him or the Democrats. The other part is about me. We have a lot to do in a short time frame. We understand that. The other thing, but if you want me to talk to you about my pension reform plans, happy to do it. Property tax reform, happy to do it. But what people need to understand from our polling was, one, they were given Rauner a pass. People didn't understand. Even Catholics didn't know you put in taxpayer funds for abortion. Even Catholics didn't know. So we had to expose Rauner's portrayals. We had to introduce me. It's a lot to do in a short amount of time, and we didn't have as much money. So we're doing whatever we can.
I'm just wondering if in every paper in the state, this could be put in here about him and a little bit about you and everything.
That's what that card does.
Not very expensive, but.
But if you have any questions about me, you can listen to my floor speeches where I opposed the tax increase. It has 2.2 million views. You can listen to, and I've written about everything. If you want to know what I feel about the Exelon bill, I wrote 2,000 words on it. It's on my official website, JeanneIves.org. I wrote 3,000 words on the education bill because I think it's important to tell voters what's going on. You can look at my vote history. I mean, I'm happy to stand on all of that. Yeah, Warren?
This is a technical thing about the election. When Kathleen did the last thing, your press.
Yes.
Okay, when she sends out a press release, do you have a fix so we can take that and put it on our Facebook site immediately? We need some kind of little button there. It used to be. You have that book you mentioned? Okay, I can read it on my computer from her press release, but I cannot take that book and transfer it to my Facebook site because I would do it immediately if you had a button that said Facebook and it would go right to mine. Now what I do is if you put something on Jeanne Ives, then I share it. But that's the only way I can get stuff unless I create I copy and paste, and then I put this little square above it as a posting for my picture on the Facebook site. Can you please change that?
Thanks, Warren. I'll let them know. But almost everything we put out, it should be shared on the Facebook so you can easily share it around. But thank you. I'll absolutely let her know that. Judy's taking notes in the back there, so I appreciate that,
Yeah,
Warren.
I'll tell her because you got all kinds of press releases I can put on Facebook until I find it from somebody else.
Okay.
Then I can share it.
Okay. Okay, let me talk to you about another scam that's been going on. And I just did a press conference on this Monday. I did a press conference on this. So Mike Madigan has his latchkeys, you know, two of them he had to dismiss for sexual harassment charges, right? Two of them, right? Well, there's more to the story. One of them, Kevin Quinn's been working for Madigan as an official state capacity for 17 years. Now, nobody thinks things the way that I think. The immediate thing I'm thinking is, what's his pension? What's his pension? The guy gets let loose for sexual harassment. He's been working as a political aide for Madigan. He also has his fake state job. What's the pension he's getting out? Well, what I did the research. My friends forwarded some information on it. I forwarded information on it. I had about half a dozen calls to the state employees retirement system about it. Sure enough, come find out, Kevin Quinn started out in December of 1998. The only year he worked every single month for the state was 1999. Since then, he's worked only 50 to 60% of the time on the state. The rest of the time, he works on Mike Madigan's political campaigns. Now, which employer leaves open a job for 17 years where that employee can work half of the time? Nobody can afford to keep that on. Only if you're the state of Illinois, right? Sure enough, so I added all his contributions. He put $26,000 over that time frame, which really is 18 and a half years. He put $26,000 in. He's going to get back over $750,000 in pension payments over the normal cycle of life. $750,000, 28 times the amount that he contributed, and while working only half time. So that's the kind of scam that's going on. But when we say that and we tell everybody about that, guess what? The scam stopped. Now I make that speech on the House floor, which I plan to do tomorrow because we have a pension committee tomorrow. So I'm going to talk about the pension committee, then I'm going to talk about it on the House floor. Guess what? When you expose the scams going on, they finally put a bill in to stop it. All this takes is exposing every scam going on. back to that education bill, because I forgot this and it's really important to understand that. So all your superintendents bought into it because they're like, hey, we're gonna get everything we got last year, so we're gonna be fine. We'll just keep raising property taxes, we'll be fine. We'll get a little bump up from the state every year. You know the problem with that? Chicago lost 20,000 school kids in 2 years. We, in my own home, we've lost a few hundred kids over the last 3 years. Cairo is going to lose half of its student population when they close the 2 public housing facilities down. I bet you $1 your student population has declined too. Your superintendents are getting just the same amount of money for educating less kids. Who's getting scammed? The taxpayers getting scammed. That's who's getting scammed. And Chicago's making out like a big dog in the whole thing. And then when your property tax changes too, when you're a value, when Chicago gets all those big projects built, and by the way, they're hiding $6.6 billion in TIF, so they're hiding all that wealth, property wealth as well. But when those get all built, and they've got more property wealth, guess what? They're still considered as property poor as they were before because they're going to get the same thing in perpetuity. That bill locked in the same funding structure under the old bad formula in perpetuity. The only thing going through the new formula is $350 million, which is a lot and we can't afford it. But what it locked in was the bad mismanagement of the past. What a bad deal Rauner did. And I'm sorry that you guys don't want to hear about Rauner's record, but the truth is, if you're not going to lead on policy, then you're not going to get good policy. And Rauner didn't lead on policy. That's what I have to point out, because I have a lot of knowledge about policy. Everything would have been different, from the assessments to keeping these static payments in place for declining enrollments. Everything would have been different because I would have had the bullhorn to make sure that the game was going to stop. But instead, every taxpayer is getting screwed. That's what's happening. And your superintendents went along with it.
I'm sorry I said that. I'm the one that said you shouldn't badmouth Rauner, but you gotta remember, you're not in Chicago anymore, you're in Cumberland County.
I get it. I get it. And everybody, look, Illinois has become one giant Illinois has become one giant Ponzi scheme. And we hired him to stop it, and it didn't stop. Because he didn't use the power of his
I would rather hear more about your positives than his negatives.
Okay, I get it. I get it. Okay, what do you want to hear about? I mean, I could talk.
I didn't think that maybe.
Okay, I have filed bill after bill. How about this? How about this? Don't you think you ought to know what the union contract says before it's voted on?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, I filed that bill the 6th year in a row now. Taxpayers deserve to see what the union contract looks before it is ratified and voted on by the board. Period. Full stop. How else do you get Palatine School District 15 given a 10-year contract to its teachers with 40% pay raises locked in, and nobody knows about it until months after it's signed?
Are you shitting me?
Welcome to Illinois.
Susie?
Welcome to Illinois, Susie. I wrote that bill.
Susie?
I wrote the pension reform bills. I wrote a bill saying that your school districts can't take on more debt.
I'd just like to have that contract.
Yeah, I know. My point is that you can look at my body of work. It's been on government transparency, pension reform, spending reform, debt reduction. It's all been about the taxpayer.
And that's just what I'm encouraging you to relate with.
Yeah,
Susie?
so there you go.
4 years ago, we watched months and months of campaign ads about how Bruce Rauner is one of us, and I want you to remember them ads. You have not seen that junk-ass Volkswagen van this campaign season. It's all been hit ads. He is not one of us. He's trying to take her out because he can't run on his own record.
Man's a billionaire. I mean, come on.
Well, I seriously did try to get...
If you want to be, ruled like a plutocracy, go ahead. We'll just offer up election to the highest bidder. I mean, if that's what you want. But I don't think anybody's buying into
That's what we
that.
do now.
Hey,
Yes,
I'm Joshua.
Joshua?
Yeah, people accuse me of being a misogynist.
Or an
I got
ass.
my eye on you.
might wanna run right now.
You got an
I do not have my weapon on me right now. I'm
And you're
feeling safe
debating
with
Brown.
her right next to me.
I have one.
You talked about the bully pulpit.
I'm
Did
sorry?
You talked about the bully pulpit with Brown in your debate. You remember that?
Yeah.
Who said it? And can you tell me who you will stand behind? The people or the system? Which
Well-
one? Which one comes first, the people or the political system that we have right now?
You know what?
Who's more important?
You go watch my videos and you tell me who I've stood behind
I've
for
seen
the
your
last
videos.
5 years. You tell me who
I've
I've
seen
stood
you on the
behind
House
for the last
floor,
5
I've seen
years.
all that crap.
That's right. So you tell me who I've stood with the last 5 years.
You can stand for us today and tomorrow turn your back on us just like Brown did.
I know, it's hard to trust a politician. That's
Or
why,
even a politician.
that's why
Amen.
the previous behavior in this realm is a predictor of future behavior. Because as C.S. Lewis said, courage is the virtue that matters the most. It's at the testing point for every other virtue. Every other virtue fails without courage, right?
I've heard that quote.
That's right. So you tell me who's taken the courageous votes down there and made the courageous stand. Go ahead. Go ahead. I stand by my body of work. I don't need to answer your question. I stand by my work.
We'll see how that
Something else that you've touched on just a couple of times, you've talked about the sanctuary state. What are you prepared to do on the issue? Are you going to be strong enough not to just do away with the status of being a sanctuary state? Are you going to actively pursue jailing illegals? Are you going to actively pursue those who harbor them, even up to a mayor or a police officer, even a police chief?
We're going to ask for federal intervention in this place to help clean it up because it is.
What did you do before you were a politician?
So I graduated from West Point and then I was a transportation officer for 6 years. My assignments include platoon leader duty in Germany, headquarters detachment command, and various staff positions. My last assignment was at Wheaton College where I was the ROTC instructor. At that point though, pregnant with child number 2, I wanted to stay home with my kids. I wanted to raise all 5 of them myself. So I stayed home for 20 years with my children before I entered the political realm, but during that time, I did tax work for small businesses and individuals, and I was the bookkeeper for a small law firm, very part-time, so I could still be with my kids. And I was the cross-country coach for St. Michael's School for 12 years. I just finally gave up that duty, and I had 90 kids on my cross-country team. I built that team up from about 40 to 90 kids at the end. The boys won the overall championship 2 years in a row. The girls got second place, but both my 8th grade teams won their races. And so I'm kind of proud of that whole endeavor. But yeah, that's kind of what I did. You know, it's pretty busy being a mom.
I
It's
hate
really
to be
rewarding.
a liar, but you're not that old.
Yeah, I am.
I know that.
So.
I just like to tell people.
Warren came down and testified on a bill with me.
She helped me.
Another question here.
I didn't. No, I didn't. The way exactly. And she helped me. Because I went through a lawsuit. I was investigated, charged with all kinds of things because I found a bunch of city employees stealing from the city. And the mayor and the city attorney covered it all up. The watchdog ran it through a court case with me. I lost the case because the lawyer's a Democrat. And he double-crossed me, and I you know, but the opportunity came to change the Open Meetings Act of the state of Illinois so that elected officials could actually hear what goes on in those secret recorded meetings when they're not there. And the watchdog's called me, and I'm gonna test.
And you did great. You did great for that committee. You told your story, and everybody's jaw dropping, including the Democrats, and the bill passed out unanimously because you came up and
Right.
told them what the hell was going on, and they knew it was wrong. Even the Democrats knew it was wrong, and that bill passed unanimously out of committee, and then it passed unanimously on the House floor, and it became law, right, Warren? That's right.
But I've been around, I'm a little older than like her. And I know somebody who's real sharp, you know. I can judge a lady in character. And there was something special about her. And the other thing was she's smart as well. And so I said, this is several years back. I kind of like to stay in touch with you. So we exchanged emails, phone calls, and Facebook about what's going on in Springfield. And lo and behold, she wrote.
Thanks, Warren. Thanks. No, so I mean, he's not a plant. I honestly, I didn't know he was coming today. But look, so we can't be fatalistic. I mean, you guys are just gonna give up? I mean, are we gonna be fatalistic, thinking that they're gonna control things forever? That's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous assertion. I will tell you, I have lots of friends. Yeah, and guess what? They live in Chicago. They're motivated to change this state. Motivated. And we can do it. I mean, look, I've got one of my largest donor is he'll do whatever it takes to change this state. Whatever. And he's been involved with this after one depressing election cycle after another, and he's still back in there with millions of dollars to try and get sense beat into people here.
Wasn't he also Bronner's large donor? I mean, how do we believe anything? It's the same backers.
Yeah, no. This man is completely different. And he's one of many, quite frankly. He's one of many. He's one of many large donors that I have that used to donate to Rauner, but then he betrayed them, and now is donating to me. He's one of many, which tells you a lot.
Most of us in here supported Rauner.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was in here, voted for it the first time, but not.
You guys remember I supported Rauner too, and who did I invite here tonight? I backed for Rauner like a son of a bitch. Rauner was going to turn this state around. He was going to do everything he could for us. And through my state representative, I had contact with Rauner. And my state representative says he's going to ask you guys to take a 4-year pay freeze. I believed in Rauner, and I believed in my state representative. And that day I asked my state representative, I said, what do you want me to do? He says, come over to Martinsville, we're having a parade. So I went to a homecoming parade. I did not show up to my meeting with my union that day because I believed in Governor Rauner turning around the state of Illinois. I wasn't worried about getting my pay raise and getting every dollar that I can get because it was worth me to get more in the long run. And I'm stuck with a 4-year pay freeze, and he didn't do nothing for me. That's personal. I mean, I seriously have been studying Jeanne for a couple years. Before she even announced, a couple years I've been following her, thanks to Kirk Allen. If you guys don't know Kirk Allen, he's with the Edgar County Watchdogs. If he can find stink on a candidate, he's going to do it. And he will freaking bury him. He don't matter what party they're with, he's going to bury him. And he's here today, and he's not finding stink.
Earlier in the evening, you mentioned that we have a problem with, you used the term fatherlessness. In the state, we have a problem with what I consider an extremely one-sided or biased system that continues to favor mothers in a split relationship, whether it was a divorce or out of wedlock. What is your intention to maybe initiate programs or at least amend the current programs to keep families together, or if nothing else, give equality to fathers and mothers rather than the system that we have right now with child support, with visitation and such?
Are you speaking like about HB 4113?
I'm speaking about all those things that I just mentioned.
Because there's a bill called HB 4113 that is actually targeting that particular issue where fathers seem to have less rights.
Right.
In this case, so I'm supportive of that bill.
You are supportive of that. Do you have any other intentions with programs?
Well, I think you need to, obviously, fatherlessness is creating the problems that you see actually in Chicago and elsewhere, especially with the violence.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. Now, I've been ridiculed for saying that, but it's the truth, and it's no different than what Barack Obama said himself.
Okay, and then that leads me to a different question.
So you have to, first of all, it'd be nice to have that model, right, in society.
Yeah.
And to talk, at least to have somebody talk about it, I think is helpful. But you can't legislate it, right? How do you legislate it? You can't legislate that.
Well, the court system, like I said, favors mothers, regardless of
no,
their
that's different. I'm
qualifications.
talking, you can't legislate that a couple stay together.
Right, I understand.
You can't legislate that.
Right.
Right. So.
Okay, so this leads me to another question. You talk about you being ridiculed on your standpoint. We see, I'll use Donald Trump as the example, we see everybody bashes the guy, and still he's out there, he's outspoken, he does not let up. Do you find yourself to be mentally strong enough to handle that ridicule?
Kirk?
West Point grad.
Did you watch my provocative ad? Did you notice the backlash from my provocative ad?
I have seen a couple of them.
Do you know? Sorry, I know about this. I don't know. Somebody from Harrisburg. I'll call you back later.
The reason that I ask is because we've seen other politicians or candidates to be politicians come out swinging, but then once they get elected in, they kind of just, try to appease everybody instead of staying with their hardcore values.
She's held her own so far.
So,
But she's not governor.
So, okay, first of all, the predictor of future behavior, again, is look at past behavior, all right? So, honestly, I've been under intense scrutiny, and I've said things that people didn't like. And when they asked me to take the ad down, including my colleagues, I said no, the ad stays, because it's the truth. Because it's the truth. I had a death threat against myself and my family for my statements regarding same-sex marriage, because apparently you can't go on Catholic radio as a Catholic and talk about a Catholic topic. And I saw it through to 3 years before the guy was prosecuted with a felony conviction.
Do you have any ideas or anything for capital spending like roads?
Yeah, I'm totally in favor of that. It's the only reason we should bond out is for capital infrastructure project. We need a capital program, I understand that. Completely in favor of it.
Do you have any open to, I guess, changing some of the ways like IDOT works with the way they transfer money out?
Well, I think there's a lot that has to change in IDOT, honestly.
We've got a county here from where I'm at that they've got brand new equipment, brand new trucks, all kinds of money for paving county roads and stuff, not this county, but IDOT, where I work, we have most of our equipment from 1980s, not all of it, but a lot of it. We're constantly working on it, we don't have any money to fix anything. We can't get rock for the shoulders. We're going to try to figure out a way to switch money around to where it needs to be.
Sir, that is one of those agencies, quite frankly, we need to have a forensic audit. And forensic audits deal with fraud.
They're going to sometime here in the near future, all the trucks in this area for IDOT are supposed to be getting iPads with them. It's going to cost monthly. It's going to track where we're at, what we're doing, which isn't, the GPS part is not part of it, correct? The problem with it.
Why, do they not trust you, or what?
Well,
Yeah.
but where do we get the money for all this stuff that it's gonna cost how many millions of dollars, and nobody knows about it? You can't buy shoulder rod, you can't buy a part for a vehicle.
It's obscene. All I can tell you is that I've heard from Illinois Department of Corrections about everything that's going on there. I've heard from the corrections officers, so I got to look into that. I know I have to look into IDOT. It's full of patronage hire as well, especially in those jobs that are administrative. You know, hiring people that don't know what they're doing. I get it. Look, I know we have a lot of work to do, so with your help, we can maybe get this set up. But we should have. That transportation fund was set up to be a secure lockbox just for transportation.
So they said the shield.
I know. I understand, sir, but I'm not in charge yet. And obviously our governor has said he's not in charge. So why would you put him in, why would you pretend? I'm just telling you, I know we have a lot of work to do, and I'm listening. I hear you. I hear you. We've got a lot of work. Yeah. I know.
You mentioned pension reform.
Yes.
I work for the state.
Okay.
So I'm obviously concerned about pension.
Yep. Let's talk about that.
What I'm concerned about is the state has borrowed against the pension system for years, has never paid it back, and has taken pension holidays for years. So where does pension reform begin?
Okay, so who do you work for? Which system are you in? Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in SERS, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have what, the 4%, and then you get also Social Security? Or do you get a full? You'll get Social Security plus you have a 4% pension. You pay 2.5. No. I'm saying, what's your contribution rate?
I think
It's 4. SERS is usually 4% plus you pay Social Security, right?
yes.
Okay, all right. So, huge deal. I'm on the pension committee. First of all these pensions are, 40% less or less funded. In a private sector, these pensions would be considered bankrupt. The federal government would have taken them over. They would have put you into the pension guarantee system, and you would have gotten pennies on the dollar right now. That's what would have happened if this were a federal pension. All right, just to let you know, lay the ground rules here. Number 2, what was that? Yeah, exactly. Annuity place. PBCF. Yeah, that's right. So the Teamsters that were stuck in that plan for the Midwest area, they got like nothing coming out of that, right? And then you just got whacked again, right?
No, I'm still active.
Oh, you're okay. Okay, well the other ones.
Not okay.
Okay. Well,
I'm 41 years into this, and I'm gonna have sales when it's time for me to retire.
And so isn't that a terrible thing?
Oh, it's worse than terrible.
It's criminal.
Theft.
It's actually criminal, right?
Criminal.
Okay. So, sir, right now your pension is pretty much protected, but it's only protected if there's enough taxpayers around to actually pay it.
Right.
Honestly. So there's multi-steps that have to happen with pension reforms. Number 1, new hires to a 401k. Do you have a problem with new hires to a 401k?
I've got a stepson who is new at IDOT and would rather be on.
Okay, that's exactly right. So I think I can win this argument. I think I can get new hires to a 401k. And the 401k plan that we have, we already do this with over 20,000 SURS, State University Retirement people. And they self-selected. We've been doing it for 20 years. And it delivers $1.5 million or more in benefits at the end of your career, okay? It's a great system. It's modernized. You can take it with you. It offers you flexibility. You own it. And you would pay less into that overall than what you're currently having to pay with Social Security and your 4%. And guess what? You're not then stuck in Social Security, which return is 1%. Okay? So it's a great plan. Your employer puts in 7%, you put in 8%. You come out ahead because you own it. Awesome plan. We've been doing it for 20 years with 0 complaints. All right? That's the first step. The second step is a constitutional amendment, so that if politicians screw this up in the future, we can adjust it going forward. The third step is to have hard conversations with people in Tier 1 and retirees about that 3% compounded COLA. That is the deal killer. Now, I know the politicians lied to you. I know that Blagojevich and Quinn barred against your plans a couple different times. I get it. But the truth is, since 1987, the benefits have grown over 1,000%. The benefits from the 3% compounded COLA to now you can cash in 2 years of sick leave, to you name it, gaming the system. 1,000% increase in benefits when personal income has grown 95% at the same time. Total mix match. Private sector employees have none of this. Private sector employers can't afford to do this. I don't know the SERS numbers as well as I know the TRS numbers, but here's an example. For the teacher salaries in the state of Illinois, the amount that has to be contributed to the pensions for those salaries is 60%. 60%. It's killing us. Pensions are killing us. 25 to 28% of our general revenues, which is why you don't have road stock. Well, part of the problem you don't have road rock. 25 to 28% of it goes only to pensions. People, I hate to tell you this, but people are tired of opening up the property tax every other line's for somebody else's pension.
I totally get it.
Because they don't have it.
Right.
So we have got to solve this problem. When you take up how much income in the state would it take to pay the pensions, it's 23% commitment of the state's income. Of the income of all of us collectively, 23% would have to go to pensions. The average in other states, 3%. 3%. So when I say we're an outlier in pension debt, I mean we're an outlier. We're an outlier when it comes to junk bond status, which we nearly are. We're an outlier when it comes to bond rating, our borrowing costs, you name it. It goes back to your point where can't we get to middle of the road? We have to have pension reform. How can we be number one in providing for pensioners, which, by the way, I'm sorry, but you don't get to collect Social Security until you're 67. There's none of this retire in your late 50s or early 60s. And then having, the taxpayers pick up your fully funded medical care until you reach the age of medical care until you reach Medicare eligibility. Nobody gets that deal. And no, your politicians sold you out. They sold you a bill of good that they made you promises we can't keep. We cannot keep these promises. We have to reform them in a reasonable manner. We're not gonna, if you got a low-cost pension, we're not gonna touch it. Got it? We have to handle that 3% compounded COLA. We have to handle the double dippers. We have to handle the people like Kevin Quinn, who are scamming everybody. All right? And we got to move everybody new hires to this 401k style system so they can own it.
Not everybody in the pension system will get it.
I understand that, sir. I'm not making that comment. I'm just saying that people working, we don't have pensions. I never took the state pension. I never took the state health care. I'm giving up, which is arguably a safe seat, to run for governor, which most people wouldn't do because they don't have the courage to do it. Because they're in the pension system and they want that. All right? So I'm having tough conversations. I pounded the table for 2 hours with a bunch of Department of Corrections folks over this issue. All right? So we got to do it. We're number one in providing for pensioners. We're number 48 in taking care of our developmentally disabled. It's shameful. And it's got to change. Otherwise, you won't have a pension. Look, it's even worse in Chicago. Cops and fires, they're at 20% funded. Chicago is paying about $1.1 billion pensions for their 4 systems. This does not even include Chicago public schools, just municipal, labors, police, fire. About $1 billion now. In 4 to 5 years, it's going to be $2.2 billion. That'll be 25% of their general revenue. They have no way to pay for that. That is a massive property tax. They have no way to pay it. They're 20% funded. Those plans are headed to insolvency. One downturn in the market, they all go to insolvency.
Do you see a workable transition through all this?
I do. I do see a workable transition. But this is the same conversation Gina Raimondo, the Democrat treasurer at that time of Rhode Island, had with her constituents. She took a year off, traveled her state, and let them understand the pension numbers. And guess what? She goes back and she finally got pension reform done as this treasurer. She's now governor. But you have to have these conversations. Because they're dragging down everything else that we need to do in this state. They're an enormous tax burden. You can't spend $8 billion on pensions and think you can afford everything else that needs to happen, especially in terms of infrastructure, especially if you want to cap property taxes and have more money go to education so you're not renting from your superintendent. It all begins with pension reform, and I've been saying that since I showed up 6 years ago. You've had your hand up for a long time.
A number of us in this room are farmers. You mentioned that your running mate is a farmer. Basically, the lower 3/4 of the state is a farming state.
I get it.
I'd like to know where you stand on, or maybe more importantly, where you and your running mate stand as far as your pocketbooks or campaign contributions by the big chemical companies, big seed companies, the companies that are doing in small-time farmers.
I've never had big contributions until I ran for governor. I never really did. I've never had like huge people donate to me.
Well, specific to farming though.
Yeah, I can't think of one in this governor's race, and probably like the chemical industry, but you know, that's like other types of chemicals too, not just farm stuff. I may have gotten, you know, a couple $100 here or there. I just don't, I honestly, no, the farmers, they don't donate to me. But I get the Farm Bureau Award every year. So, I mean, I get the tractor. Yeah, no, not that I know of, sir. No.
Okay. I mean, I think it's great that your running mate is a farmer. I just feel like governor after governor after governor knows nothing about farming, when the majority of the state is a farming state.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I know how to walk beans and detest the corn, okay? I mean, but you know, but my brothers work my uncle's farms all the time,
Right.
doing everything. But I get it. I grew up all around the corn fields and soybeans, and I mean, I understand it.
Does
But
your running mate have any ideas that he'd like to propose for going forward in the state? Maybe more incentives for organic farming, getting away from GMOs, anything like that?
Well, I've actually read a little bit about the cover crop stuff, and I think that's fascinating and interesting. But a lot of the farm programs obviously come from the federal government, and a lot of the ideas. But I mean, farmers, the way that you can support farmers is by supporting their farming communities, so they're not depleted, so their grocery store doesn't go away, so their kids find an opportunity nearby and can take over the farm, right? That's the best thing I can do for farmers from the state level, is help support your farm communities so your kids are well educated. So they're in a school where they actually are learning calculus by the time they're in senior, so they can qualify to maybe go on to the University of Illinois. Because we have schools that aren't teaching foreign languages in rural communities. We have schools that you can't even find a calculus class. That's shameful in this day and age. So the best thing I can do for you as a governor, because I'm going to admit to you, I'm not going to lie to you, I don't know a lot about farming, so if you got an issue, you got to come up to me.
Well,
But I have been supportive of farming stuff in terms of protecting property rights. But the best thing I can do as governor is support your local communities.
There's still plenty of things that a governor can do. There's still state incentives that can be handed out. There's still things that we would need you to go to bat for, such as the problems that we have with the EPA. I mean, we need somebody in a high position to take on the issues that we have with the federal government and those programs.
Well, now
that we have.
that's different. I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to look at the program and do that. But I'll tell you, I'm not going to talk about incentives. I'm not going to talk about incentives for anybody, because we're going to level the playing field. I was one of 5 people who voted against the EDGE credits. The EDGE credits are given out mainly to large corporations as an incentive to come into the state. Look, every small business should feel appreciated in the state, and everybody should have the ability to gain the same incentive no matter who you are. So I'm one of 5 Republicans only. Only 5 Republicans vote against the EDGE credits because it's a blind system. All right? Now, that doesn't say that the credits that were given out, we actually should need to follow through with. But in the future, we just need everybody to be able to file that same form, and if they've hired this amount of employees, and they've invested that much in their business, they get the same credit. Instead of this opaque process by some bureaucrat that comes up with some formula about how much you're going to get. Let me give you a perfect example of a bad deal that was done. So Haribo, they make the gummy bears, wanted to place 55 corporate jobs near Chicago. So the state gave them $30,000 per job, that's $1.6 million, I'll do the math for you. And they located those 55 corporate jobs in Rosemont, all right? And at the same time, they took their 200 plus person brand new manufacturing facility and put it right across the state line in Wisconsin. Now, how was that a good deal for Illinois taxpayers? It wasn't. That's the kind of deal that got made under Governor Rauner. That's not gonna happen. But I'm not here to pop up any business. I'm here to level the playing field so you can compete equally. Oh yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you. First thing we do is we ask for a full waiver from the federal government when it comes to Medicaid so we can design and implement systems that work for Illinoisans instead of working for large insurance companies or these MCOs, which I'm not a true believer in. Second thing we do though is we say that single able-bodied adults have to do something in order to earn their benefits. Single able-bodied adults. This is not the disabled, this is not the mother with children, this is not the older workers, this is not that. This is single able-bodied adults have to work for those benefits. Now, what Rauner did is he continued the Quinn waiver that said that you don't have to work in order to get your food stamps from the federal government. He went out for that just in October, which is a good predictor of what he's going to do with Medicaid. We'll ask that those who are receiving benefits and are single able-bodied adults actually have to work for those benefits. And that comes in 3 different forms, according to the federal statute. It's 20 hours a week work, it's volunteering, I think not 40 hours over the course of a month, or it's being enrolled in a program for job training. That is not too much to ask. So that's one of the things that we would do to reform welfare.
We have situations where mothers that we children with housing will also be receiving food stamps, Medicaid, Medicare, what have you, for kids' medical card. She will then meet some young man who's just got out of prison, bring that into her home to pick up her raise her children. He eats off of her food stamps, the kids' food stamps. It stays in the house that we're paying for. And at some point, that has to be a detriment to those children. The children are living with an ex-convict that is going to be a father figure when he's mooching from the state.
So as far as I know about housing, most of that housing has rules saying that you cannot have somebody like that living in the house with you. Most of them have houses.
That's correct.
That is correct. So it's a matter of them, they're breaking the law, and if that's the case, then that needs to be prosecuted.
I was told that housing director here that changed under Obama.
Nope.
And that it is not.
State Housing Authority,
And they can't kick on.
and your county housing statutes forbids felons from being in government housing. State law.
So,
Well, that's the management company of the housing that would be responsible for making sure that the rules are being enforced. I mean, that's not a political issue.
Actually, your county housing authority, those board members are appointed by your county board. Those are the people you go to that meeting and you stop it. We've done that in numerous counties. The housing board is not enforcing the laws. And if it's management, like you said, that board has oversight over those people, and they're supposed to be monitoring that, and they don't.
According to Kirk Allen, that's what he specializes in, is fraud like that. According to him.
Another question on the media. And
Yeah.
it pertains to the election process too. What can you do on the state level to combat the problems that we've got going on with intervention in our elections, with the broadcasting of false news, propaganda, etc., through any outlet, internet, television, radio, billboards, anything like that? What can you do on a state level to see to, I mean, there's certain things, that stuff should be illegal. For a news outlet to broadcast something that is a complete lie, it should be illegal. Can you, or are you willing to take that on, maybe be a leader, the first state in the country, to pass legislation to make some of that illegal and prosecutable?
Well, there's already laws against slander. I mean, there's already laws against
Well, I
slander.
understand it's slander, but specifically towards the media.
Well, look, if they're running somebody's commercial, and the commercial is slanderous or incorrect, then the individual who's a subject of that slander can certainly sue, have the commercial taken down and do all this other stuff, right?
Right, but
And
that's
then-
on a personal level.
Yeah.
What we keep on seeing these news agencies, nothing happens to them. I mean, they just continue doing their day-to-day activities. Nothing ever happens. What can the state do? What can the Attorney General do to prosecute and shut some of them down?
I just can't talk about the hypothetical because I just need to know exactly what I'm looking at to understand where you're going. But I know that, here's an example where there is somebody else who's being attacked by the House Republican organization, funny enough, and because they don't want him as a candidate. And so he has actually sued them to take down their commercial and stop sending their false mailers out. So you can sue for that.
It's just difficult when you're just one person suing.
Yeah,
I mean,
no
if somebody
doubt.
commits
Yeah.
slander against me, I have to sue them.
Yeah, you do.
I'd like to see it on a national level to shut some of these news
So,
agencies down.
Part of what we've done in terms of helping out in this area, which is maybe where you can go, is you can ask to get your attorney's fees back, which then helps. That helps the whole process. So then you know that some of these cases can take hundreds, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. So if you know that you're in the right, you can add that as a caveat that you're able to recoup attorney's fees. But otherwise, that's what our court system's set up for, to determine all that. There are laws against that already.
The court system's set up that if you have a lot of money, you can maybe have a chance to win.
Yeah, I've already stated that I'm well aware of those existing laws.
So you're not being paid by.
I'm talking about going forward. What can you do to lead the nation and put something out there that will actually do something from the state, not from an individual?
Your state representative, Reggie Phillips, we've actually talked with him, and it's being drafted now is what's called fee recovery, and that's what you mentioned.
Yeah.
By putting it into the law to have fee recovery, what you'll find is lawyers will jump on board and take your case because now they know that they're going to get paid. Because we can't afford to do it individually. And fee recovery is the solution to it. And there's actually a lot of support for it. That's legislatively, that's the first step, is fee recovery.
I'd like to, if that's the case, and if that is moving forward, I'd like to see, if you do get into the governor's office, I'd like to see you personally push that.
Reggie's working on that.
She can't go against the amendments. We got freedom of speech. Nobody can go against the amendments. Anybody can say they want to.
Well, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate meeting you. Thanks for staying. I apologize for being late, but this is the meetings that they do. They just, you never know what's going to come up, when it's going to come up, and they decided to run all these gun bills, which was a lot of discussion on the House floor, because everybody had to make their impassioned speech about why we needed to, over-license gun dealers, why you couldn't get a gun below the age of 21. They didn't want you to get that. I mean, it's just, they raised the age to get guns to 21.
They did that?
Yeah, they passed that. But I mean, it's got to go through the
How's
Senate.
Reggie?
So like the
vote on
other
that?
constitutional
Reggie was
amendments
not
have
there
an age
today.
limit too?
Wasn't
So
there?
if you're under 18, you don't have the freedom of speech, you don't have the freedom of due process of law.
You can't make the nonsense up, but I mean, everybody had to give their speech.
So who has more jurisdiction in the end? States' rights or federal?
That's it.
How about county? Who has more rights? County, state, or federal? Who has
240-year discussion.
more?
You can go to my website, ivesrealnoy.com. Thank you all for coming. It's been great. Thank you.
You need to come over here and hug my fiance Elisa and my mom real quick.
The lady next to me has a she does all military guys. So Timmy gave me his sign, so I'll see if she'll, when I run her. So
I'm clear. Gary Lemming is my dad. Oh my gosh. And if I knew if I didn't do this myself, that'd be the first Christmas. Did you tell her that? Yeah. So, it depends the crowd that I am if I tell people. But are you planning on coming to Shelby College to do any? I don't know when. I mean, typically it says Democrat, but we've been like I was elected to the township, so voting more and more. So time is like, I mean, you can contact us. There's a Lincoln Day dinner coming up. I can talk to Carolyn or Brad Hopper to find out. But anyway, it was very nice to meet you. I'm very impressed with you. I brought her along because she's a political science major. So right now, like, she's looking to transfer. I'm like, I need to know that. Maybe you can get an internship or something. I'm your own rights. As I said,
Either from May, yeah, so right now, all we're doing is trying to his wife and I running the same.
I didn't get big when you started.
Well, no, you can get that. But you keep meaning you can't get it from the outside. But it's kind of a push. Right now we got the red slash and the gas. CCL, like the movie theaters, tavern and stuff. But I know the status of it. But I go to the movie and I'm sitting here with my wife and somebody walked in and started shooting there are some things that make it. I don't know, personal opinion is, I don't hunt, they are. Why do you need to come in like this? Yeah. When you fire one loud round, no, right,
You gotta back me up this way, I'm right.
Jeannie, this was the chief of police when I was a teenager. I wasn't chief of police. I did this to him. Yes.
You made it every bit of my right in my tell you what.
Yes, you did. I drank a lot of beer.
I don't put signs in my yard. They also know what it is. It starts making fights.
Nice to meet you, candidate for sheriff right here. Thank you.
Good luck to you.